So in AC's doc, the road ahead, we talk about wanting to cover two very specific things. One that's like the importance of codifying specific regenerative claims. I think that we've done that pretty well thus far. And
Yeah.
two, the importance of a single universal regen attribute into the data. And I don't think we've talked about that enough. So like we said, ROC already exists and is codified in here. But like, let's say, for example, just to throw a hypothetical or a theoretical out there, if Spin, Circana, Nielsen, everybody else adopted Whole Foods policy of the same four verifications we talked about before, they could have an attribute added to their data. So, like when you're submitting an item in Spins, if you have one of those four boxes, you can tick the box, and then in the syndicated data, it will populate as, hey, this brand is Regen or whatever they want to call it, regenerative or regenerative brands, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would then trickle down and be able to impact all of the things we've already discussed. The ability to track the claim for the brand, to see who else is competitive in the set that has a regenerative box ticked. Merchants can identify trends and decide, which categories are or are not participating meaningfully in the regenerative movement, and all sorts of other things. So
Yeah.
that is super easy to talk about, very difficult to solve for.
Yeah.
And there's another level of complexity that like they might need to have like the one like major regen box and four sub boxes, one for each verification, because they might also want to track which certifications are doing better than others and more impactful and things like that. So again, complicated, nuanced, but that's one version of the future that could potentially work.
Yeah. And I'm not sure from our conversations to date which is the right order of operations. If the data provider would want to track the type of claim first, like do we need to get just for the sake of simplicity, we'll just use those four that Whole Foods has approved, right? Rock, Land of Market, Regenified, and A Greener World. So when you go in to submit your new SKU, you would do that first, and then it would automatically, as a rule, tag you as a regenerative product. But the thing it's really coding in is that you are a Rock product or a Regenified product or a Land of Market product. Or do you tag yourself as a regenerative product and then, like you said, have the sub underneath of what basically the third party validation or the way you got there? I think that's a question, right? Because if we take Spins as precedent, they would probably have to do it the first way that I articulated, which is by the certifier first, because they've basically gone that direction by just doing Rock first. Maybe with Nielsen it's the same, maybe with Nielsen it's different, et cetera, et cetera. Then that introduces, so that's complex, one, but I think we can solve for that. Like I really do think there's an answer. The other thing we would need to think about, and where most of the contention will probably come from, is the validation of those claims, right? For instance, let's say I have a coffee SKU and my whole coffee bean has a Romance copy regenerative claim that is not approved by any third party, including the Whole Foods regenerative assessment. But I can go in and I can tell Spins, hey, I have it on my packaging. I'm being sold in these retailers and no one's told me I can't sell it and no one's sued me and I have it on my packaging. And hey, this is a regenerative product through a Romance copy claim. And then I'm Heirloom Coffee Roasters and I have a Rock whole bean coffee SKU in that same retailer in that same set of Spins data that is Rock, that is third party validated. And I can send Spins, when I upload the SKU, some sort of PDF document that says, hey, this SKU is certified Rock. What I'm getting at there is you then have the whole nother challenge of the governance of those attributes and those claims and the validation of them, which once again, I think there's a solution for, but because there's all these different articulations of the claim on pack, and there's all these different ways to validate, it's very multi-pronged. It's just this giant, what are those things called? Like those charts with all the legs on them?
Flow chart?
Yeah, flow chart, org chart, whatever. I mean, it's not an org chart, but that's the image in my head of like the algorithmic thinking that would need to occur to code it all in, basically.
Yeah. And I see there's like pros and cons to both potential systems, right? Like, let's say Spins doesn't allow, if you don't have one of the certs, like you don't get to be regenerative in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could be great for governance, but for the small startup brand who can't afford certification or is on a waiting list or whatever, like you don't get that validation.
Yeah.
And this is contentious. These are contentious waters, right? Because then now we get into, okay, well then, how does that prevent greenwashing? In my mind, we really do need to get to the place where to make claims, you've got to have certification. We need to get there in time, and we need to do it in a way that honors all of the great work the different legitimate organizations are doing.
Yeah.
And we need to try to figure out how to unify that in some way so that we can do these collaborative type initiatives that are going to raise the tide for all of the regenerative ships.